There are several developments to share on the Starbase, NASA's Artemis program, and SpaceX's Mars landing mission. Unfortunately, there's some much worse news concerning Russia's anti-satellite missile test, which is causing an international and very reckless mess in the lower Earth orbit. Finally, we have another fantastic flight from Rocket Lab, this time with some unexpected surprises. The SpaceX Starship prototype SN20 completed its static engine test a few months ago and has one orbital flight test remaining. The FAA, on the other hand, is conducting its own probe. The FAA halted all SpaceX test flights a few months ago owing to its public inquiries. The Federal Aviation Administration of the United States has stated that the SpaceX Starship's environmental assessment procedure and super heavy environmental evaluation will be completed by December 31st. Isn't this some major news? The FAA extended the public comment deadline for the draft environmental study of a planned program in Boca Chica, Texas, from September 1st to November 1st. During the planned public hearing, the FAA received over 17,000 written comments as well as 121 spoken remarks. As a result, SpaceX and Elon Musk will be unable to launch the Starship Super Heavy spacecraft until the FAA completes its license procedure, not including the environmental review. Given all of this, Musk stated on Twitter, "I appreciate the efforts of the FAA, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and Texas Parks and Wildlife, and there is a lot of local support for the project." In September, the FAA issued a 151-page draft environmental review. The evaluation discusses debris collection, local road closures in Boca Chica, and other associated concerns, as well as the possible environmental implications of SpaceX's original mission plans. If all goes as planned, the FAA should be able to award SpaceX permission to launch rockets by December 31st. So, based on this information and the dates supplied by the FAA, we may anticipate SpaceX and Elon Musk to begin launching before the end of the month. This is crucial because SpaceX is creating a spaceship capable of transporting passengers and cargo to the Moon, Mars, and other distant destinations. Isn't this fantastic news? It's amazing because it's going to be a terrific sight for SpaceX and rocket fans again shortly. Indeed, if everything goes as planned, NASA humans will ride a Starship to the lunar surface in a few years. The agency just picked SpaceX's Starship as the initial human landing system for its Artemis program of crewed lunar exploration. You might be wondering, what was the NASA Artemis program all about? You'll be surprised to learn that NASA's Artemis mission will land the first woman and first person of color on the Moon, utilizing cutting-edge technology to explore more of the lunar surface than ever before. NASA plans to work with private and international partners to build the first long-term presence on the Moon, and then utilize what they learn there to take the next major leap, sending the first people to Mars. That's right, you must believe NASA's objectives are audacious and astounding. NASA did not hold back in informing everyone about why they were so adamant about attaining this goal. We're going back to the Moon for scientific discoveries, economic rewards, and inspiration for a new generation of explorers, the Artemis generation, they stated. While preserving American exploration leadership, we shall forge a global alliance and explore deep space for the benefit of everyone. This ambition is admirable, and it places SpaceX and Elon Musk in a pivotal position in all of this. Don't you think so? Before we talk about the amazing things going on at Rocket Lab, let's quickly dive into the stupid and irresponsible actions of Russia toward the lower Earth orbit. There has been some really disturbing news about Russia's anti-satellite missiles fired at satellites in lower Earth orbit, which is causing a whole lot of distress and catastrophic satellite pieces dangerously roaming in lower Earth orbit. The United States government has recently condemned Russia for conducting a dangerous and irresponsible missile test that it says endangered the crew aboard the International Space Station, the ISS. The test blew up Russia's satellite, creating debris that forced the ISS crew to shelter in capsules. The station currently has 7 crew members aboard, 4 Americans, a German, and 2 Russians. At a briefing, the U.S. State Department spokesman Ned Price said, "Earlier today, the Russian Federation recklessly conducted a destructive satellite test of a direct ascent anti-satellite missile against one of its satellites." He continued, "The test has so far generated over 1,500 pieces of trackable orbital debris and hundreds of thousands of pieces of smaller orbital debris that now threatens the interest of all nations." NASA Administrator Bill Nelson added that he was outraged at the incident. With its long and solid history in human spaceflight, it's unthinkable that Russia would endanger not only the American and international partner astronauts on the ISS, but also their cosmonauts, as well as the Chinese taikonauts aboard China's space station, he said in a statement. This is a nonchalant behavior shown by the Russians, don't you think? Surprisingly, the Russian space agency Roscosmos de-emphasized the incident. In a reply to the admonishment, the agency tweeted, "The orbit of the object which forced the crew today to move into spacecraft according to the standards and procedures has moved away from the ISS orbit. The station is in the green zone." Don't you think this statement shows no sentiment and is international? However, Mr. Price described the Russian action as dangerous and irresponsible, and went further to explain that it demonstrated the country's claims of opposing weaponization of space as disingenuous and hypocritical. The U.S. will work with our partners and allies to respond to their irresponsible act, he said. UK Defense Secretary Ben Wallace said the test shows a complete disregard for security and sustainability of space. This piece of debris will remain a threat to the life of humans in space and satellites in space. We hope something is done about this before it becomes a bigger threat to space exploration. Nevertheless, a space company called Rocket Lab is taking the limelight with some amazing surprises. If you have no idea about Rocket Lab, then brace yourself for a quick background check. Rocket Lab is a public American aerospace manufacturer and small satellite launch service provider. It was founded in New Zealand in 2006 by engineer Peter Beck. Currently, the Rocket Lab is adding a new silvery thermal protection film to its rocket called Electron. It will be added to Electron's first stage that will be used on the next attempt to recover the booster, sometime in the first half of 2022. Rocket Lab says it's ready to move to its next step in its effort to recover and reuse Electron's first stages by attempting to catch a booster in midair on an upcoming launch. We wouldn't say this looks like a fantasy film, but companies like SpaceX have proved that there's nothing impossible. Don't you feel it's eye-catching to see aerospace companies pull things like this? On November 23rd, Rocket Lab announced that after 3 launches where Electron boosters splashed down in the ocean and were recovered, it's now ready to take the next step and use a helicopter to catch a booster descending under the parachute, a measure that will allow the company to reuse the booster on a later launch. This is rather commendable, don't you think so? Rocket Lab has successfully recovered its first stage booster more than once and is currently the only company besides SpaceX to achieve reusability. Rocket Lab Chief Executive Peter Beck said in a call with reporters that the company is ready to move to its next step after its most recent launch on November 17th, where the Electron stage splashed down after launching a pair of black sky satellites and was recovered by a ship. A helicopter was stationed to monitor the stage's descent, but did not attempt retrieving the booster in midair. This was the last piece of the puzzle, Beck said, making sure all of the systems were in place to retrieve the booster. It did flawlessly. The company hasn't set a date for the next recovery attempt other than sometime in 2022. There will be more non-recovery missions in front of that, he said, saying the company projects a busy first half of next year, in part from mission delays from this year because of launch failures and pandemic lockdowns in New Zealand. Don't you think it is amazing for such a company to achieve this in a short period despite the challenges? We hope to see more amazing upgrades from Rocket Lab and other space companies in 2022. Do you believe the SpaceX Starship will be launched on December 31st? What disciplinary measures do you expect Russia to face as a result of its reckless behavior? Do you believe Rocket Lab will be able to participate in the race to Mars as a result of the current success? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks!